It's almost a little disrespectful because this is a great song, but just know that this could be our exit song.
There you go. I know, right? We'll use that later.
Yeah.
And those songs, you might have recognized some of them. They came from the list that you all shared with us when we got to know you a little bit more through your learner profile. And if you haven't had a chance to fill that out, we would love for you to do that. We're going to use that in several different ways throughout the year to kind of get to know you, but also you'll hear that playlist. So we made a Spotify playlist. So, and if you didn't hear your song yet, you have to keep on listening for it. Maybe that'll be a little teaser there, enticing. So it's so great to see everybody. Today, it is a little bit of a different kickoff day for us, but like most things this spring, we're rolling with it, and things we're kind of getting used to it. The way things, I guess this is in some ways our new normal, at least for the time being. I am Nancy Mangum, and I am the Associate Director of Professional Learning at the Friday Institute. The Friday Institute is located in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we are so excited to partner this ongoing partnership with the Niswonger Foundation. I'm joined today by my friend and colleague, Dr. Patricia Hilliard, and we are glad to have her, and you'll be hearing from both of us today. We are both here in Raleigh, where it's a little overcast this morning and muggy, and we wish we were with you all in beautiful East Tennessee, but hopefully soon enough we will all be able to be together in one place. Dr. Bethany Fillers. Bethany, you all get the emails from Bethany often, and Bethany is the Director of Instructional Practice for the Niswonger Foundation and helps to lead this grant with us here at the Institute, and so we are so excited to have her. You'll hear from Bethany a little bit later on, but a lot more tomorrow. I don't know if Dr. Kitzmiller is with us today, but we are glad to have Dr. Kitzmiller plays an integral part within this grant as the Vice President of the Foundation, but also helps to lead and vision this grant with us, and so we're always glad to be joined by him. A couple of other key important people. John Payne. John is our Director of Instructional Technology, or Innovation, I think that's his title, at the Niswonger Foundation, and John helps us with all things technology related, both today on this call, but also in general, and is a great support and wealth of knowledge for us as we think about technology and how it can support us in this work. We have Brittany, and is Brittany back yet? Or I think she's okay. So great. So I didn't. Hey, Brittany.
Hey.
So we're so glad to have Brittany, and Brittany is works with marketing, but also helping us stay organized and keeping things rolling. And so Brittany is a great asset to us with the foundation. And then we have Laura Holian from Anlar Corporation, and Anlar works with us. Oh, and look, I see Brittany and the baby. Yes, Brittany just had her new little sweet one. So we're glad to have her back. But Laura Holian with Anlar helps with our evaluation and helps us to think about how we can continue to improve. So there are a lot of people, as you can tell, that support this grant, but some of the most important people are the instructional coaches from the Niswonger Foundation. And so I would love for each of the coaches to just quickly introduce yourself if you want to jump on the microphone. And maybe I can call on you, and that way we won't be talking over top of each other. And so I'll go down the list, and you all can just introduce yourselves. All right, Catherine. Catherine, do you want to introduce yourself first and say hello? So. All right. Okay, well, maybe let's start with Brooke then. Brooke.
Hi, I'm Brooke Drennan, And this is going to be my third year as a coach with the Rural Life Grant. And prior to that, I taught ELA at Hancock High School.
Thank you, Brooke. And I think just one quick thing about Zoom, I think you'll notice that as someone speaks, you should be able to see their picture kind of pop up to the screen. So hopefully that's working for you. And if it's not, you can send us a message in the chat and maybe we can help get that straight for you. All right. Thank you, Brooke, for kicking us off. Let's see. How about Sarah Kitzmiller?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Kitzmiller. I have taught a variety of things in Kingsport City Schools and coached a variety of grade levels K-8. So I'm excited to be here and excited to get to know you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Let's see. We have Chris. I see Linda. Linda, you want to join us and say hello?
Hi, good morning. My name is Linda Stewart. As Sarah, have taught a variety of things, and I'm looking forward to my third year as a coach with the Niswonger Foundation. I hope we all have a wonderful day.
Great. And I see Christy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Christy Snyder. This is also my third year with Rural Life. Prior to taking this job as an instructional coach, I taught 7th grade ELA at Jefferson Middle School in Jefferson County. And I look forward to getting to know you all.
Thank you, Christy. Catherine, are you able to jump on your microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. I had to just reboot. I just completely came off live from the laundry room. So hello, everybody.
We understand. Well, thank you, Catherine. We're glad to have you again this year as a coach.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And I think I got everyone, but did any of the coaches? I don't want to, tried to go down the list there. Did I forget anyone?
Not that's here. Everybody that's here, I think.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Tricia. Yes. So we do have a couple of coaches that are not here with us today. They had other commitments, but they will be joining us, and you will continue to get to know the coaches as we go throughout the next 2 years. So let's meet you all. Thanks to everybody who introduced yourself in the chat. The learner profile that you had a chance to fill out kind of gave us some great information, and I know the coaches and the whole team had a great time kind of looking that over. There are a lot of different roles within the group. We have library media specialists, we have literacy coaches and reading intervention teachers, and then we also have some ELA teachers. And I think I captured everyone's role, but if I didn't, please share in the chat. But a lot of different roles that you all represent over our 31 schools that are going to be in this for the next 2 years together. So let's look at it by the numbers a little bit more. We have probably our largest group of you all have been in education for 21 plus years. So a lot of great experience and knowledge within this group of lead teachers. Maybe then our 2 smaller groups are our 0 to 5 years and our 11 to 15 years. There we have about equal numbers there, but it's great to have your insights as well. And then a lot of you all with 6 to 10 or 16 to 20. So great to kind of see the experience in the group. You know, part of this, when we actually got to meet face-to-face with the principals back March 10th, it's hard to even think back to March 10th when the coaches and the whole team were with your principals. But we talked a lot about creating this community of learners. And so today, that's what we're starting with you all, is this community of learners. And so kind of getting to know each other and seeing who's in the room, drawing from each other's experiences will be really important as we go through this grant. And I know some of you know each other. Some of you are teaching in the same district, or you know each other through other activities. But many of you probably don't know each other. And so that will be important for us today. All right, so a little bit of fun. There's a lot of different hidden talents, or maybe some of them maybe not so hidden talents in this group. But I love that we have a barbecue pit master. So maybe we can get together. Maybe somebody can bring us some good food. We some of you said that if you weren't in education, you would be a travel photojournalist, or maybe do a lot with landscaping. Some of you said that you were in transportation and logistics coordinator. If you weren't in education, that's what you would be doing. And we also had people who said they're a book editor, or would love to be a book editor if they weren't in education. Some of those talents, the ability to remember song lyrics and cheer dances from the early and mid 1990s. That is awesome. Maybe you'll have to show off some of those skills at some point with us. A lot of you talked about perseverance and the ability to connect to your students, and that supersonic hearing. That's always a really good one as a teacher. But I think maybe one of the best ones as a teacher is having a bladder like a camel. That is definitely a superpower in being a teacher. I know from my years in the classroom. That is always great. So a little bit of fun for us this morning to kind of get to know the group, and maybe that backup singer in the rock band will have to jump on the microphone when we play some music later on, and we can hear some of your talents there. So our goals for today, I have already touched on this one, but beginning to unify as a community of lead learners. We also want to make sure that you understand the roles that we all play in this as we're here together. And then we want to begin to think about the components of a learning environment that can support personalized learning and a culture of literacy. And so 2 hours, we'll be in this together. Maybe now a little less than 2 hours, but we do want to make sure that you probably have something to write with, or and some paper. If we were there together, we would be passing out Post-it notes and have markers on your table. So if you want to just take a minute and grab, or 20 seconds, if you don't already have something to write with or some paper, I know a couple of the activities we're going to be doing will want us to have that with us. We will try to make this as interactive as possible. If you have questions, please feel free to share them in the chat. Ask your questions in the chat. There is also a Q&A. The Q&A, those of us that are hosts, so all the coaches, as well as John and Brittany and Bethany, can see those Q&A questions, but the rest of the participants cannot see those. And so using the chat is probably a great way to ask questions, because other people, if you have the question, other people might have it as well. I think we have muted everyone now. We will give you opportunities to come off of mute and talk on the microphone, share some ideas, or even ask questions that way. But kind of staying muted is probably the best, because if you're, we all have lots of things happening in our houses. I know for me, my dog is snoring right beside me. So if you hear somebody snoring, it's my dog. But staying muted is probably the best way for us to kind of stay focused and be able to hear the presenter. You can escape out of full screen. Zoom tends to lock you in full screen mode if you're on your computer. And so using that escape key won't kick you out of the meeting, but it does help to minimize the screen, so then that way you can see other tabs along your browser. And so it might be helpful to be able to do that. Trisha, anything else I should share about Zoom?
No, in a second, you're going to share another screen on how we can make this a little bit more active. There you go, to raise your Zoom hand.
Yes, great. So thanks, Trisha. And like Trisha said, the raising your hand or using the thumbs up is a great way for us to kind of get consensus. You know, if we were together, we might say, is everybody with me, or does everybody understand something? And we get a thumbs up. It is a little bit harder in this virtual environment. Trisha and I have spent a lot of time over the past 3 months leading webinars and leading trainings. And so we've kind of learned to use that feature. So if everybody wants to try to go ahead and give me a thumbs up that you can find that.
You have to click on participants. And once you click on participants, actually, John has this locked down. So really the only thing that I know I can do is raise my Zoom hand. And as you know, we look at all those blue hands going up.
Yay,
So
I see them. I see Hannah's. I see Laura's.
yes. So just keep in mind when we ask you to raise your Zoom hand, please, please, just volunteer. Just volunteer.
I see Miranda and Sally's.
There you go.
See Amy's and Amy. We have Amy B and Amy K. Stephanie's. Great. I don't know if others see, but all right. I see Lori's and Megan's and Lynn's. All right. So I think most of you found. I see Brandy's and Anna's. Okay. Amanda's asking where to. Amanda and Leslie. So if you there's a little Zoom bar that kind of comes up. We have to hover down usually towards the bottom of your screen, and it allows you, it brings up a black bar that has mute and stop video. It has participants on there, as well as a couple of other things. And when you click on participants, that allows you. Yes, so look at the bottom. Yeah, you have to scroll down with your mouse there. And you know what? It is kind of great with this smaller group too. If you can't find your Zoom hand to raise, you can always raise your hand just with your video. And so we can kind of go old school too.
Got a thumbs up from Catherine. We're good.
All right. We don't want you to feel excluded if you can't raise your Zoom hand, so you can always just raise your physical hand. All right. So let's just talk a little bit, out of curiosity, how many of you all were part of the May call, where we just had that kind of quick onboarding call with the principals and some of the lead teachers? Okay. All right, great. So I'm looking across and seeing several of you were there. All right, super. So some of you have heard a little bit about this, but I just wanted to make sure that it's always important to kind of do a level setting and make sure we're all on the same page. So Rural Life is this this initiative, and you are part of the control group. And these control schools, so we had, I believe it was a total of, and now I've, oops. There we go. Sorry, I got an error message. Okay, let's go back. So you are part of the control schools. There were 67 schools that were part of this grant, and we had 36 of them go through during the first 2 years. And now we are, and those were considered the treatment schools, and now you all are considered the control schools. So whether we call them the treatment and control, or first group and second group, or the second cohort, you are part of our second cohort, and we're glad that you're here. There are 31 schools that are part of this this grant now. And you might be wondering, so rural, okay, we get that. For most of us, we live in more rural areas, but Rural Life, what does LIFE stand for? Well, it stands for Literacy Initiative Focused on Effectiveness. And we, as the grant was written, we like to look at it and think about that literacy and personalized learning, where those two things meet. That's where we see this effective implementation really reaching all of our learners with literacy. And so that is where kind of the intersection of these two things come together. And sorry, I think that my Zoom is not wanting to cooperate for me today. I jinxed us, Trisha. I said we've been doing this a whole lot, and now
I think this might actually be Google. My Google was completely messed up all of yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Keep on getting a message. An error has been reported to Google. Okay.
Right.
So I apologize.
If I need to, I can take over so you can restart.
Okay. Thank you.
Nancy, I had to refresh my browser, like up at the top, to get mine to quit doing that.
Okay. Thank you. Let me try that real quick because that is kind of frustrating and distracting. So let's just try that. We appreciate everyone's grace. We had to give a lot of that lately, haven't we? Okay. All right. So let's hope that is working. So yes, Rural Life is focused on literacy and personalized learning. We know that many of you all are ELA teachers or coaches that work with literacy, but really where this comes together is bringing in those personalized learning strategies with literacy, and how can we all improve to better meet the needs of our students. There we go. It seems to be working. So like I mentioned, there were 67 schools that are part of this grant. That first cohort had support the first 2 years, and now we are on to cohort 2. We also have 8 Niswonger coaches. You met many of them this morning. The foundation itself, Dr. Kitzmiller, Dr. Fillers, and John and Brittany all are supporting the activities of the school. Trisha and I work at the Friday Institute, and then you met Laura from ANLAR, and we'll talk more about our roles in a little bit. So a couple of things, and we're going to get you to participate a little bit. And so I'm going to share a couple of statistics to give you maybe a little bit of background as to why we thought writing this grant was important. And, you know, why East Tennessee, why literacy, why middle grades even. And so I'm going to share a couple of statistics or data points with you, but then you're going to have an opportunity to react to some of these and read some more. So let's take a look at a couple of these. So in the state of Tennessee, and these may or may not be things that you are familiar with, but let's take a look at some of these. So only 32%, or a little over 32%, so almost 33% of students across grade levels are meeting the expectations in ELA in Tennessee. And only about a third of our 8th graders were reading on grade level, according to NAEP. As we think about literacy and graduation, I know that it seems kind of obvious, but as we look at the statistics, they're kind of glaring. As we think about almost 7,000 students drop out of high school across the U.S. every day. And many of these, it's because they don't have the literacy skills that they need, and they become frustrated with school. What about literacy and poverty? Well, as we look at these rates that are below basic readers, 23% of these children drop out or fail to complete high school on time. And overall, about 22% of children who have lived in poverty don't graduate from high school. That's a pretty high number as we think about that. 22% of our children who are considered in poverty don't graduate from high school. Some early indicators and interventions as we think about this, that it isn't just about high schools. You might be thinking, well, Nancy, we teach middle school. We don't really have anything to do with high school, but actually we do, because in both middle and elementary school, there are those early predictors. We can predict the students who are struggling with literacy in elementary school and middle school are the ones who often drop out. And so we think about those students right now who are struggling with literacy. We don't want them to not have the opportunity to graduate, but yet often those indicators come in as early as actually 3rd grade. They also, this study from an early warning sign talks about that 6th graders that have just one of these signals have a 3 in 4 chance of dropping out of high school. Just one of these things makes them much more likely to drop out. So a final grade of F in math or in English, less than 80% attendance rate, or an unsatisfactory behavior mark. So some kind of conduct that was unsatisfactory in at least one class. Those students have a 3 in 4 chance of dropping out. That's pretty scary when you begin to think about that. So I want you all to have an opportunity. I shared a couple of statistics, but there are some more. And so we're going to use a protocol called Quotation Nation. If we were face-to-face, we would have some of these posted around the room, and we would have you walk and use your marker to kind of have a conversation and to talk about things and to leave some comments. But because we're virtual today, we're going to use a Padlet. And so, Tricia or Bethany, if you don't mind putting a link to the Padlet in the chat. There's also a QR code there if you want to use your phone or an iPad to scan the QR code. But I want to give everybody a minute to go to this Padlet. So probably the easiest way is to click in the chat and get that. So I'll wait till everybody's there, and then I'll give you some directions. All right. I think everybody's had a chance to get there. If you're not able to get to this screen that I'm showing, let us know in the chat. The wait time is a little bit awkward because I can't see everybody's face or we can't walk around, but I just want to make sure that everybody's here. All right. So on this Padlet, I don't know if you've used Padlet before, but Padlet is a great way that we can have some either synchronous, like we're going to have today, conversations, or asynchronous conversations. I was able to upload some statistics and some information here to the Padlet. And you'll notice if you click on any of the pictures or the words, the graph, it does enlarge it. So you can read it a little bit more closely and take a look. And then you can also leave comments, or you can also like things. There's the like feature there. And so we're going to take about 5 minutes, and I want you to read some of these quotes and give a reaction. It could be a question. It could be just your initial thoughts. It could be something you wonder or you're more curious about. So let's have a conversation using the comment feature here, and you can just comment under on Padlet, add comments to the statistics, either literacy specifically in Tennessee, or as we look at literacy and poverty, literacy and graduation, or early indicators. And if you have a question, if it's easier, if you want to come off mute and ask us, but we'll give about 5 minutes for you to read these and respond, and then you can respond to each other's comments as well. And Stephanie, are you on an iPad or on a phone or on a computer? That might help us to troubleshoot with you.
Chromebook.
Oh, a Chromebook? Okay. All right. So Stephanie, are you able to see the link that Tricia posted to the Padlet right above your comment there? Okay. If you click on that link, does it take you to this to my screen, or it won't? Is it keeping you locked in? Yeah, locked in. Okay, Stephanie, are you able to find the escape key on your keyboard? Okay, can you click on that and does that kind of shrink my screen that I'm showing? Okay, great. So now, Stephanie, if you look along the top, along your tabs, this Padlet should be in one of those tabs that are open.
You might have a couple of them open.
Yeah. And Stephanie, if that doesn't work, if you just want to respond to any of those in the chat, I see Sally's done that as well. So you could do that so that you can participate a little bit more. I can click on some of these and you can see them a little bit bigger.
And
Oh, no,
Sally, that's a great comment. That's fine if you responded in the chat or in the Padlet. I think as people go through training on how to support English learners, they find that the same strategies support native speakers as well. So I think you'll be very surprised that there isn't this magic strategy that only helps one population. What typically helps one also helps the other.
Yeah, I'll make some of these a little bit bigger here so people can see them if you're having difficulty. And Trisha or Bethany, you keep me straight on my time if we...
2 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. If you haven't already done so, you might want to look at what some of the other people are writing, what your colleagues are writing. Okay, maybe 1 more minute, and then we'll have maybe some people share on the microphone. That sounds so funny, share on the microphone. But,
Get ready to raise your Zoom hands.
all right. Lots of great comments here. And some good questions too. Does somebody want to share jump on the, raise your hand and share. And Trisha or Bethany, if you can kind of monitor that or let me know whose hands are raised, I think, or maybe I think I can pull it up now. I have a question for you all. When I pull that up, is that covering up my screen? Is that blocking part of my screen?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You can see that.
Thank you. All right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So I think I can actually do that as well. So somebody want to share a comment or a thought that they have? You can raise your hand and all right, Danita.
Danita, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry.
We all do it.
Talking away. I'm the one that put about on the Y middle school. It just, my heart dropped whenever 2 out of 3 or 3 in 4 chance. Because I know some that have more than one, that meet more than one of those. Mm-hmm. And that really was eye-opening and bothersome at the same time. But
yes,
I mean, I see how that could happen, but it's still, you just don't think about it as much, I guess, as a middle school teacher.
Yeah.
And it was, that was wow. That was a wow moment.
Thank you, Danita, for sharing. Anyone else willing to share your thoughts? Something?
Catherine has her real hand up.
Okay, Catherine.
Breaking protocol.
Oh, yeah. I thought that comment under literacy in Tennessee, that it's interesting that the gap is widening, especially since we've been focusing on closing the gap. Yeah. I think that was that has to be addressed.
Yeah. Sure. We want to meet the needs of all students and all of the students, whether they're our ELL or our economically disadvantaged or our minority students. We want all of them to be able to, or our students with disabilities. So that's a great one to think about, and to think about how can we serve them. It's our hope that through some of the personalized learning strategies, as we talk about that throughout this grant, and also as we look at data and use data to help inform our instruction, that we can begin to identify those gaps within our own classroom and then look at strategies to address those gaps, for sure. One more.
Sarah has her hand up.
Great, Sarah, yes.
I was just going to say, I think we, in an effort in Tennessee in particular, want to see children succeed. And we focused a lot on RTI instruction, which has helped us adjust the Tier 1 instruction to our Tier 2 and Tier 3 level students. And we've seen a lot of success, right, with that. And so we get to confirm that, if you put in this effort, you're doing a good job and you're working hard. And we like to see kids grow, and we want to combat that belief that they can't, like why middle school, right? Like we want to really show them you can do this. But then we cross that big bridge and we see that growth. And then the bridge we forget to cross, I think, just because, again, it takes so much effort for us to cross that bridge thoughtfully, because it's kind of personalized to kids so that we can specifically see them close their own personal gaps, that now we've got the bridge that I feel like we're starting to really build up a lot of energy to focus on. It's how to bridge the gap between seeing that, oh, I can do this, I can improve, to, making that understanding transfer to I can do Tier 1, I can be in the regular classroom with my peers and grow as well too, and learn as well too, and have a voice that's worth sharing there too. And so I think that's the last bridge that we need to connect to see what we need to see for kids to be successful. But I always think about that. It's like because it's so much effort to cross that bridge, right, from a kid who's really struggling and not doing well, and then figuring out what their gap is, and then being able to show them they can grow if they focus on it, but then connecting that to what they have to actually master to see that return on their work, their investment. So I think that's like the next step, right? Anyway.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. And hopefully through these quotes, through the conversations, both in the chat, on the comments, as well as on the microphone, that you've been able to kind of begin to understand why we felt like this was so important and why we wanted to write the grant and why we know how important the grant is for the community, because we do want to help our students and we know middle school is so important. So you have a little bit more information about the grant and about the why. So what's your role in this? Hopefully you had a little bit of conversation with your principal about this. Some of you might have just been told to come to this meeting, not really sure, but let's talk a little bit about what your role is in this. So as Tricia and I were doing some planning, we thought, the power of threes. A lot of good things come in threes, don't they? And you always hear a stool has 3 legs, and some have 4, I guess. But there's a lot of good things that happen in threes, and we believe that there is a powerful intersection here with the 3 groups that we're bringing to the table. So the Friday Institute and ANLAR, as partners of the Niswonger Foundation, are a big component and player in this. Then we have our Niswonger coaches, and then our lead teachers. And as we all work together, we do believe that we can make a difference and make an impact for our middle grade students. So let's just really quickly, the Friday Institute and ANLAR, I briefly mentioned this, but the role that the Friday Institute will play is to design and deliver professional learning opportunities. We work with both the principals as well as you all, the lead teachers, and then we also support the coaches as they continue their growth. We work hand in hand with ANLAR and with Laura. Laura's role is to collect data and also make suggestions for improvement to support the grant. Laura also brings a depth of research as well. And so the two of us together as kind of outsiders, but really we feel like we're part of this Niswonger family. And so we play both of those roles, bringing kind of our expertise to the table. This is probably the role you're most interested in, the lead teacher. What did I sign up for? Some of the things here, of course, partnering, and we use that word partner really strongly because we hope that you will see your rural life coach, your Niswonger coach, as a partner in this. We want you to participate in the professional learning. That schedule, we had a plan scheduled out, but like all things this spring, we've learned to be flexible and adjust to our plans. So we will be having several professional learning opportunities for you all throughout this year, but and next year, we want you to participate in that. You will be an important part in sharing information back with your school, but principal. Creating a literacy action plan, which we'll talk more about tomorrow, will be an important first step, but then continuing the conversations with your principal and taking a leadership role within your school as those things roll out to help continue to build a culture of literacy. We know in your classrooms, or some of you support teachers, ELA teachers, but you all are doing a lot with literacy. But how can we incorporate the rest of your school? How can we bring them in and really create this culture of literacy, but also support for literacy? Because it can't just happen in the ELA classroom. So what about our coaches? Well, again, that collaboration and partnership is going to be key. We want them to offer guidance and direction. They'll kind of be your, I won't say your first line of support, but you're kind of your direct line. You'll be talking with them a lot and having conversations, emailing with them. But they're here to support your individual school plans. That's kind of a unique part of this grant, is that every school gets to determine how they think that they can best support the needs of your school. So instead of us coming in and saying, everyone will do this, every school is going to do this, you get to create a plan that is unique and personalized for your school. And so the coaches offer support and find resources as you need them. We want them to work in partnership with you to identify areas of improvement and to strengthen the literacy instruction that's happening. So you might be thinking, we saw those statistics, and whether you've been teaching for more than 20 years or whether you're new to teaching, you all have a lot of experience. And you might be thinking, why do I need a coach? I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at this. But you know what? We actually all can really use a coach. And there's been a lot of things out there that I've read recently about even some of the most successful people, big CEOs, and even star athletes. They all have coaches. So we're going to use a literacy strategy here. And this is from Kylene Beers. And I don't know if you're familiar with this literacy strategy, but maybe it's one that you can use in your classroom. And this strategy really helps to connect, or the intention of the strategy is to help connect readers more personally or more deeply to the text that they're reading. And so it's called the BHH, or Book, Head, Heart. And if you have a piece of paper, you might just, whether you want to draw a little book, a little head, a little heart, or whether you want to write that down. But, and this says book. I'm not going to have you read a book today. You're going to read an article. But as you go through it, I want you to kind of think about, what is this article about and what do you notice? What stands out to you? For the head piece, what surprised you or confused you? What were you kind of thinking about? And then what did I learn, or what did I take to heart? What aha moments did I have? So those are the three things I want you to make note of. And I want you to read the article that's posted in the chat about the importance of a coach. And let's use this protocol to dig a little bit deeper. The article is very short, and looks like Trisha has posted that in the chat for us. So let's take just a couple of minutes and read this article using the protocol. If you need help, let us know. We can email you the article. I want to make sure everybody. And just because I can't walk around and see, if you finished, will you just raise your hand? That way it kind of helps me to, and if you can't raise your, okay, thank you, perfect. right, we'll give you maybe just another minute or so to wrap up. And then we'll ask some people to maybe share via the microphone. All right, does somebody want to share? You don't have to share all three, but if you just want to maybe share a reaction to this article. All right, and Kayla, I think, is your hand raised to share, or maybe that you finished?
I think I had it raised that I finished, but I don't mind to share because I was just thinking through what I was reading there. Sometimes I think it's difficult for teachers to admit that we need coaching or need help because we're so focused on being the leader of the classroom. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking as I was reading that.
Okay, great. And I think I saw a lot of head nodding as well. Yeah, I mean, even when we see somebody like Michael Jordan, some people call him the GOAT, right? The greatest of all times, needing having a coach.
I think Anna and Amanda Anna still has her hand up. I'm not sure if it is. Nope, she put it down.
Okay. Amanda, would you like to share?
Make sure you come off of mute.
All right. Yeah, what stood out to me was when it said the more coaches I have, the more empowered I will become to coach others. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting, especially when they talked about if we're beginning to feel drained and empty, then it might be that we're doing too much leading, too much coaching, and we need to be filled up and encouraged by coaches. And I think I'm guilty of sometimes feeling like if I'm being coached, then I'm being criticized, but that's not the case. I think we're being built up and supported by these coaches so that we can be better teachers and better encouragers of our fellow teachers.
Yes. Amanda, I think that's so beautifully stated. And that is our hope and our intent with the Niswonger coaches and with you all. That's what we want. We want to build this partnership to help fill you up and to maybe bring some new ideas to help you meet the needs of all of your students and to reach that. And so as you go through the next 2 years, you'll form a great bond with your coach, we hope. And so we hope that you see them as an ally and as a partner and somebody who can fill you up and who is going to, praise you for the great things that you're already doing, but give you suggestions and opportunities to help you move forward. And together you can figure out. I know for me, when I was in the classroom, I had a coach. And at first I was a little resentful, like you said, Amanda, a little bit, I don't know about resentful, just maybe more like, wait a minute, what are you saying? But I came to really appreciate this person for the insights they brought me, but also to have that partner to think about, okay, I really am struggling with a particular student. How can I get through to them? And so kind of having that partner and that ally. And I know that I'm a better teacher because I've had a coach. And so offering that, and we'll continue to help support you as you work through that relationship. But we wanted today to just kind of mention this. Trisha, anything to add?
No, I just think it's a good point. Sometimes we feel like we're being criticized, and unfortunately, we've probably had coaches where they criticized, whether they were a coach that was sent to our school because our school was not performing well, or a coach who frankly wasn't trained well. I think in education, there is a stigma attached to coaching, and we keep working harder and harder to change that so that it is a positive, it is not a punishment. And you will see that throughout rural life, because we are asking you to make so many different changes, that a coach is needed. If we were saying, just go on and do school as normal, then, a coach wouldn't be needed. But because of, the changes that are happening, the changes that are going to happen in your classroom, another educational professional in there is really needed because the lift is pretty large. And I know as an educator, I could not have gotten any better at all without someone giving me some critical feedback. It's like having broccoli in your teeth and no one saying anything about it all day long. And you're thinking, who's on my side here, people? That coach is that person that, pull your side, like, Amanda. That coach is that person that is there for you, not against you.
Yeah. Perfect. I love it. All
I
right.
forgot. I'm navigating the slides now.
Yes. And hopefully you got 2 new strategies, whether it's using the Padlet or the BHH.
Did not need to activate this closed caption.
Oh, I forgot to activate closed caption earlier. Thank you, Trisha.
Oh, we're doing that? All right.
Oh, I don't know.
So we're going to switch from talking about rural life to really talking about what we envision the fall to be. If it's virtual, if it's blended, if it's remote. Let's just think, I know the spring just ended and you'd rather celebrate that, but I want you to also be thinking forward as the teachers as to what's going to happen in the fall. And we are here to set you up for success. So we want to talk not necessarily about literacy and personalized learning, but really how the classroom learning environment has to change because of the changes to your instruction. And to do this, we're going to take a trip to a couple of amusement parks. So in the world, millions and millions of people, even now, I guess, visit amusement parks. Like Disney obviously is one of the best ones that people visit every year. I know my audience here, so I know I have to mention that Dollywood attracts millions of guests every single year. I wouldn't leave Dolly out. But my question for you is, why do millions of people visit amusement parks year after year? Why, even in the middle of a pandemic, why are people so eager to get to an amusement park? I want you to share some of your thoughts in the chat. Why millions of people? Okay, Hannah, experiences and entertainment. A long time ago, I used to be in live entertainment and I actually made the costumes for an amusement park. People love that part. They love to sit down and watch a show. It's family activities, bringing families together. Mickey Mouse for the kids. Miranda's talking about memories, fun. It's just fun, Bethany, right? And Rachel, it's fun. Okay. It's an escape. It's also an escape from our normal lives. I think that's also why maybe now people can't wait to get to it. And it's a vacation. It's a way of bringing people together. Thank you, Megan. So when we look at amusement parks, especially that fun and taking you out of the real world and the entertainment factor for some, and Queen Dolly, and an opportunity, Brooke, I want to mention that, to see Queen Dolly. I heard she visits. I want you to think, when we think of amusement parks, we automatically think of fun and family and escape. Is how can we really take that same approach and apply it to our classrooms? So how can we have these effective and productive environments that really support and improve literacy, taking that kind of like amusement park approach? So go with us the next probably 45 minutes as we dive into this amusement park approach, and just know a break is coming up as well. So the first thing that no one mentioned, but it's in the back of your mind, is that when you go to an amusement park, you know it's going to be safe. You don't want to end up as one of those statistics, someone like on a ride upside down. You know it is going to be safe. They have stuff posted before you go. You can read about the safeties for your children before you go. When you get in the actual parking lot, they have more reminders about safety precautions. Then you get in the park and they have signs up about height and weight requirements, and if you're pregnant, and remove your earrings. And then these poor people, again, I worked in an amusement park, they have to say the same thing, the same way, hour after hour, every single day. So it's even spoken to every single guest, all of the safety precautions. So they don't just tell you once, it's repeated over time. So when we think about really building that amusement park approach to our classroom environments, the first thing that we have to think of is building a physically and emotionally safe learning environment. Again, we're asking you to change your approach to teaching and learning. That's also going to give students more freedom. And before we do something as scary as give middle school kids a lot of freedom, we really have to think about, okay, how can we design, make modifications so that it's physically and emotionally safe? And that is remote, physical, anything in between. So let's go through a protocol that I made up called Yes and. All of the different quotes that you are going to see come from, the source should be down there. It comes from this blog. So when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we think of the lowest common one here is physiological needs. So this one particular teacher said, I have to keep snacks in my drawer. I try to keep the healthy ones because with Snickers bar, you know, everyone's going to want that, but peanut allergies, but maybe not. But keep the healthier ones. If my kids are hungry, they can't learn. We all know that. So yes, that's one way, but what's another way that you can provide, whether you have done it in the past or you're thinking you may need to do it now, another way to provide for your students' physiological needs? What have you already done? Or what do you think you can also do to provide this basic need for your child? That's within your control, of course. And you know what? We're gonna have, if you teach sixth grade, or if you in any relation work with sixth graders, we're gonna have you answer in the chat. That way we just control our response a little bit and others can look and learn from those who are in contact with sixth grade students or teach sixth grade. The wait time on Zoom is painful. Oh. Seventh grade? Seventh grade? Clothing and deodorant. Thank you, Anna. I think most people wouldn't think that teachers need to do that, but absolutely. Let's wait for a couple of more responses on how you can really provide within your control for your students. Water bottles in the classroom. Amy, that seems so basic, but I could see where some people would not allow that to happen. They need to have the water. Great. Yes, ask them. Mandy, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but check on them and ask them because you may not know, you may not be able to see it yourself. Thank you. So working up Maslow's, clean, warm classroom. So for you yourself, Bethany is saying you could actually have a clean classroom, modeling it. Basic school supplies. Please, Megan, don't get me into my soapbox about giving the kid a pencil. Don't even talk about it. But yes, absolutely, having those basic school supplies. And Amy is talking about a partnership with Mission of Hope. Awesome. Yes, for girls, feminine hygiene products. Because it's you know, it's an awkward place. Oh, now they're coming in. Now they're coming in. Absolutely. It's an awkward place for girls. They may not want to go down to the nurse, but to have it right there. Rachel was talking about breakfast. Yes. If they're hungry, if they're worried about having an accident, if they don't have a pet, they cannot learn. Absolutely. These are all really great. So moving up in Maslow's to safety needs. When we look at safety, this particular teacher talks about creating a number of procedures, especially for middle school. She was saying procedure for turning in your homework, where to put your cell phone, how do you begin class, how do you end class, how do you transition into a group, what do you do when you're in the group, what are your roles within the group. She went on and on and on for routines and procedures that need to be in place. What else needs to happen? What other routines and procedures do you think need to be in place, especially if you move to more of students might be working independently, they're working individually, they're working in a small group? What other routines and procedures do you think you would need to have in place to ensure that your class is physically and also emotionally safe? When we say emotional safety, we know that this child is not abusing or bullying this other child, whether it's virtual or in person. So if it's posted, Anna, I think that's the first step, just like an amusement park, but what else can we do? Roles for each child, understanding procedures for different situations, and we could really expound upon what those different situations are. And Jared said about being respectful and honest, and I would just say we have a definition of what respect and integrity looks like. How can we translate that to our students? Sarah says redirect and reteach. Let's pause right there. Sarah Kitzmiller said that. So I feel like you saw the slide, Sarah. So let's talk about the teach and reteach. As a teacher, here's where I wasn't so great, was the reteach in those behaviors. I taught high school, thought they were grown enough, they should already know, but there is value in the teach and reteach. There's also an unintended message when you don't reteach. So let's just look at this very simple example. I know this is elementary school, and I said I was a high school teacher, and I really wish I would have visited. I say this every time, look at Nancy smiling. I really wish I would have visited a elementary classroom, because when it comes to procedures, everything is a procedure. And in that really good classroom, it runs very smoothly, and you can see 5-year-olds doing things that 15-year-olds aren't able to do, because I, as a secondary teacher, didn't teach them that. So let's watch this video. It's about a minute long on how she teaches this behavioral expectation. And as you watch this video, I want you to note 3 things. Her tone, how many times she practiced it, and what feedback she gave her students.
Who can remind me what we do when I play the chime in our class? Julia.
Be quiet and look at you.
So, I'm going to play the chime again, and I'm going to show you what this would look like. Ready? What did you notice that I did? Julia?
You were quiet and you didn't move your mouth.
Go back to work doing what you were doing before, and we'll practice the chime again. It was about 30 seconds. Let's try it again. Back to what you were doing before. That was instantaneous. If you have some snack that you would like to finish eating later on, you may wrap it up. Oh, I think we need to practice again. Everyone talk to your partners. That time I noticed that not only did you become quiet, but your bodies were still as well.
So this was elementary, and I have that chime actually that I use in professional development. Tell us about her tone. What was it about her tone? Because I thought this was an effective video. Maybe you did not. But what did you notice about her tone? Give me some words for her tone. No, she never raised her voice. She was calm the entire time. Neutral, right, Sarah? Mandy, calm. Conversational. And since I know we have a lot of veteran teachers here, we know if we raise our voice, they raise our voice. So she was very, very, very calm, but in charge. Absolutely, Tracy. I don't know how many times she practiced. 3, 4. She didn't make it personal. That's a really good point, Hannah. She didn't make it personal and call out certain students because there were a few that were, but yes, she didn't. She probably practiced, 3, 4 times to reteach that particular procedure for the attention. But what did you notice about her feedback to students? Hannah mentioned it. She didn't make it personal. What else did you notice about the feedback that she gave students? It was specific, absolutely, Brooke. It was positive, Lynn. It was clear, not extra information, right? Because they don't need all the extras, Sarah. It was immediate, absolutely, Stephanie. She didn't say, remember yesterday when you did this? And it was direct. All of these words, like if you are really that person that's into capturing what's in the chat, all of these words are really, really great in giving students feedback on teaching or reteaching, especially as you are looking into shifting your classroom learning environment. And it was measurable. Absolutely, Tracy. She said that was 30 seconds. Now this one is better. Thank you. So moving up, this Maslow's hierarchy, there is the love and belonging. One particular strategy that is good, especially for that student that is difficult to get along with in your classroom, is the 2x10 strategy. So spending 2 minutes a day, this could be virtually, this could be in person for 10 consecutive days, has really shown to build that relationship with that one particular student. And that's talking about not school-related activities, but their own personal lives. So having that one particular, there's some students that we can easily get along with, whether they look like us, they have the same interests as us, that remind us of us when we were in middle school, but what else can we do so that all students feel like they belong in our particular classrooms? What other ways can you show students that you care? So before we get to the literacy and the books and the personalized learning and the learning profiles and all the fun things and the flexible seating and the chairs, what are some other ways that you can show students that you care? Maybe it's a strategy that has a name, maybe not. We have to Maslow before we bloom. By name, every single day, and pronounce the name correctly, Stephanie, right? Attend their events, Christy. I heard was one of the most effective ones is to see you outside. Give them some specific compliments. Wendy, responding to their journals, sharing a little bit about your own personal information, Lori. Recognize their effort and express appreciation. Again, support them outside of your classroom is really, really great. Yes, it's extra time, but when it comes to really trying to get students to move beyond those statistics that we saw, I think that's great. Follow-up conversations. Yes, learning their interests. So just some other pointers as we move up. Avoid sarcasm. Not everyone can translate our sense of humor and understand it, especially when they are younger. They're not able to recognize those words or the body language. And I missed a slide that talked about Maslow before Bloom's, that's why we went over this. But when we think about, the reason why we're not talking about the literacy or the personalized learning right now is because setting this up the Maslow before we bloom is one of the most important steps that we could have to move the needle forward. So we're going to take a 3-minute break. But as we take this break, I want you to look collectively at these 4 different tiers and think about, okay, what can I do so that, number one, my classroom is safe, so that it's physically and emotionally safe, so that it is so safe that I can try new things in my classroom. I can push students to think. I can challenge their thinking. So we're going to take that 3-minute break. You can sit here, you can journal, you could stand up, and I highly encourage you to stand up if you've been sitting for the last hour and 16 minutes. Take a bio break, get some coffee, and we will see you back here in 3 minutes. Sarah, make sure you come back. I know how you are with the break. That's our time. 3 minutes goes by fast. All right, I'm gonna give everybody 15 more seconds to come back. Looks like we have everybody here. If you can, give me a thumbs up. You are back and you are ready. Thank you. I've got the physical thumbs up and a hand up. All right, we're ready to go. So back to our amusement park approach. I want you to imagine going to the amusement park on your left. No rides, no concession stand, no live entertainment, just a park. Versus rides, entertainment, and food. So what are we talking about here? What I heard you share earlier is that one of the best parts about the amusement park is that shared experience, that collaboration that comes from having that experience on the Death Drop machine or Raptor or whatever it's called, is having that experience together. And without that, it just wouldn't be the same. So what we're gonna do right now is go into a shared experience. Before we do, I just want a couple of people to share vocally. Amy, you have your hand up. I know you don't mean to have your hand up, but if you do, I would love for you to participate. Just 1 or 2 people to share. Why is it important for students to have shared experiences? And what challenge do we have when we have them collaborate, come together, do assignments together? Just 1 or 2 people to share, why do you think it's important for students to have that shared experience? Especially even thinking about like the amusement park analogy we have going on here. So Amy, you have your Zoom hand up. I don't know if you are volunteering, but I'll take it. Anyone else, just to raise your Zoom hand, just to share. All right, Amy, Stephanie, nope.
Sally in the chat shared that there's a bond that happens when students accomplish something together.
Exactly, there's a bond, just like at that amusement park. Value and collective efficacy, Sarah said in the chat. It's so odd that teachers are the last ones in these Zoom sessions who want to actually speak up when you do that for a living. But just know that this is also maybe how your students feel when no one wants to respond, and that's okay, because we're about to go into some smaller groups. So we're gonna have our own shared experience. Nancy talked about earlier the power of 3. We're back to 3s again. So levels off the playing field in their classes so that it makes everyone kind of equal. I think that's a really great point that Leslie just brought up. So the 3 in 3, don't do it now. You'll have a chance in a second. So I want you to look around your household. Don't bring anything that's living, like don't lift up your cat or your dog or your child. Just find some objects in your household, 1 that reflects your personality, 2 that reflects your passion, and 1 more that reflects your passion. So you're gonna find 3 items in your household. Don't do it now. We're gonna put you in breakout rooms in a second, and you'll have 3 minutes to share why you selected these 3 items. For right now, we are giving you 3 minutes to find your 3 items. Now you can go.
Some people made it back fast, Trisha.
You need 3 items. Not one that represents all. You need 3 separate ones. I think somebody has a baby. Did someone go get a baby? Yeah, there's a baby. I see a cute little baby. She's so cute. It looks like everybody's back.
Can it be a big item on the floor and no one promised to judge me if I show the floor and there might be food because I haven't vacuumed in a while?
Couple more seconds. All right, so you've had enough time to get your 3 different objects, and from what I've been looking at in the video, this should be really interesting. So John is gonna put us in breakout rooms now. So you will see a message across your screen that you've been assigned to Sarah's breakout room. Just go ahead and click, and then each one of the coaches will lead you through this sharing activity. Just give John a second. Come on, Zoom. I know you can work. I know you can do it. Sending Zoom positive vibes as we go into our breakout rooms.
It's like the teleportation.
Yeah, they're going.
Great. We'll see everybody back in a little bit. All right, and I think they have to accept, so maybe Haley and Christy need to accept to be sent to their rooms.
That's correct, I do believe.
Yeah.
And they are assigned. Everybody's been assigned.
They might still be looking for their items.
Could be. There goes one.
There we go, and then Haley.
Yep, it says Haley is not joined.
How do we get to the breakout rooms? I don't see that.
I'll make you the host, Patricia. I had to make one of you the host, okay?
Oh,
you're Nancy, okay. And then you can jump.
The host, she can stay the host. I just didn't see it, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
Okay, Nancy, do you want to be you want me to make you the host temporarily, or what do you want to do?
Either one. Trisha, if you want to jump in, and go see some of them. I'm not the host currently. Oh, look at Christy.
Yeah.
Christy's back. So do we need to push Christy back into a room? Christy and Haley?
Yeah, I'll try. Let's see. Let me just assign them to a room, okay? And I'll give them to Sarah.
And John, how many people does each person have in their room?
Approximately 5 to 6, mainly 5.
Okay, 5. So we need to give 15 minutes.
Of course, now, obviously, it's the coach and then 4 others.
Okay.
Okay, that's your 5.
So they've been there a couple minutes. Trisha, what do you think? 10:40?
Haley does not show up as unassigned, guys. So she's in a room. It's just a matter of her accepting the invitation.
Okay, yeah.
Now, once I make one of you the host, you will have to close the rooms, okay? Unless you come back out and tell me to reclaim it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because only the host can do that. So who would like the responsibility?
I feel like I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, I'm fine about it.
Okay.
Trisha, I think we might need to just quickly look at our time. Are we going to be okay with time?
How did, I don't, can I? Okay, there we go.
Oh, it looks like Robin is here now. So, John, we have Robin
All
and
right.
Haley and Christy. Can you put them into some different?
Christy's in a room. She just hasn't joined it.
Okay, and Robin.
And there's 2 Robins.
Okay, Robin Dunn just came in. It
Okay,
looks
I'm going
like.
to add her to Bethany's.
Okay.
There's only 3 people who are not assigned, and that's myself, you, Tricia, and Dr. Kitzmiller. That's the
Okay.
only ones who are not assigned. Everybody else is in a room, or could be if they just accepted the invitation.
Okay, great.
Hello, by the way, guys. Good to see you all.
Hi. I'm sorry. I realized I should have let you and Laura come off the or say hello to the group.
That's okay. I'm fine. Like I said, I'd just be here to wave.
Okay.
Time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, everybody's a little bit differently in their level of sharing. John, are we all back? 40?
That was fun.
I guess we're all back. So for those of you who were in the breakout sessions, Nancy and I kind of hung back. We didn't want to mess up Zoom in any type of way. Hopefully you had enough time to share your 3. And you could always take this protocol that we completely made up to your physical or your remote classroom so that students can really begin to have shared experiences right from the beginning. I know a lot of teachers I've seen online worry about starting the school year remotely and how are we going to get to know one another. And I think we can definitely be creative, especially since they're in their own homes, and having them do this. And if they don't have access, they can always, send you pictures or email it to you. So there are some ways that we can create that shared experience, even in this artificial environment. So when we go back to that new classroom, students really need to have multiple ways to ask for help. This is one that we may not think of, especially when we move to students doing more independent work. But once again, the amusement park's got it covered. They have ways where you can help yourself by looking at a map or a directory that are posted throughout. They're posted on signs, and then you can carry it around yourself. There's always those emergency towers where they like to call them guests, but I always used to say I don't make my guests pay. But that's what you're supposed to say at an amusement park, that they're guests, not customers. So the guests can go to emergency towers to ask for help, and then there's always EMTs that are around, or different places where you can get first aid, where you could reach out for help. So there's multiple ways for the guests to ask for help. Translating that into the classroom as we look at really changing teaching and learning, what are some ways in which your students can ask for help in multiple ways? Instead of it just being, Miss Kitzmiller, like these 30 kids, and Sarah's trying to ping pong around this room because they can't do something and they have to have her help. To be more effective, we really have to have multiple ways for students to ask for help. This came from the same blog written from Teacher Thought that I referenced earlier, and the title was, "Dear Students, Asking for Help is a Strength." And she goes on to talk about how middle school students really don't feel, some middle school students don't really feel comfortable in asking for help, at least not right away, especially if they are doing something new that they've never done before in elementary school or the prior grade. It is really helping them ask for help and giving them multiple opportunities to ask for help. The first thing that we can do, again, this comes from, Nancy, was this from our trip in Colorado that you saw this poster? I think
Yes, it was. It was when we went to Colorado.
Yes, Catherine also went on this trip. So we had the privilege of visiting a school that was doing, I guess we could say, personalized learning, because we had to see it firsthand, just like you want to see it firsthand. And this was one of the posters that was up, because once again, students were being asked to work differently than they were conditioned to working in a traditional school environment. So they had this poster, but the teacher also reinforced this poster verbally as well, is that, okay, when you're having that hashtag struggle, what are the 3 things that you should do? And I love how specific the teacher was, because pout, cry, or sulk is also one of the things you should not do. So all of those were on there. Or feel stupid. You should not feel stupid. Another way, especially when we visited this Colorado classroom, the teacher did a lot of small groups, and the teachers didn't have teacher assistants. They would be working with 5 or 6 students, you know, the ones that typically were struggling, and the rest of the classroom was working. So how do we get to the point where students rely upon each other and know when to ask each other? We didn't see this in Colorado, but if you like to be a little quirky, you could have that teacher off limits hat. You can have a cowboy hat on that you got at Dollywood. It could be some obnoxious hat, or it could be a salt and pepper shaker that says off limits, on limits, something like that. But they know that I am helping this group. I'm giving this group my attention. At this point, you're going to have to quietly turn to your neighbor to ask for help. Another strategy that I have seen, a very inexpensive strategy that I have seen, is the solo cups. You get 3 cups. Students are working on something independently by themselves, and they just flip the cup. They go from the green, the yellow, the red, and we teach them what they mean. You can't stay on red all the time, so that they don't have to raise their hand. The teacher can just scan the room to see where people are, and I don't have to keep track of names on a board, or students have their hand up forever. They just flip the cup right there. I'll wait for Catherine to take that picture. Even though you have access to the slides, it's okay. So when we think about improving literacy through personalized learning, what I just want you to think about as we move through this grant together in the next 2 years is, what structures would you need to have in place for students to ask for help if they're working in pairs, if they're working individually, if they're working in a small group. And also, because of the world we're in right now, how can they ask for help if it's not in the classroom? And what if they don't have access to a computer? We still need to figure out some ways for them to reach you, reach their buddy, reach other people in their classroom, so that they can move forward all the time. So now I'm going to turn it over to Nancy.
Yes, thank you, Trisha. Sorry, I just had to realize I needed to plug in. Zoom seems to suck the battery. So let's talk for a minute about reflection. Reflection is something that it is another part of those, part of kind of the shared experience, but also as we think about the amusement park, you know, a lot of times we'll remember back, or we'll talk about the day as we go on that family vacation or to that amusement park. But reflection plays just as an important part in our classroom as it does to those family trips or the amusement park. On the next slide, you'll see, as we look and think about reflection, that, you know, reflection isn't just important for us as adults, it's also important for students. And so on that next slide, you'll see, oops, yeah, that we want students to be in the habit of reflecting. And this reflection is important to help them think about both what their strengths and weaknesses are, but also to help them think about how they can become better at what they're doing. That self-awareness piece is a big piece that we talk about, and reflection is important for that. And you'll see this quote from ASCD that talks a little bit more about that. So I want you to take your piece of paper and I want you to fold it into thirds, or just draw a little line on it. If it's a Post-it note, you can put 3 Post-it notes out. Or if you want to type it, you can type it. But I want us to spend a couple of minutes reflecting on relationship building. We talked about shared experiences, and part of those shared experiences help us to build relationships. But specifically, as we think about the foundation of our classroom, is that relationship building. And so I want you to just, in the first column, just take a minute and jot down how you've started school in the past that's helped you to build relationships. So what are some things that maybe you think about that you've done before that have helped you to build relationships? Okay, now, Tricia, if you'll click one more time, I think you'll see what are some strategies. So you know what you've done in the past. Now I want you to think about, maybe, do you have some new ideas of how you might begin to build relationships at the beginning of the year? Maybe an idea that came to you when you were just sharing with your, in our Zoom rooms, or maybe it's something else that you've been thinking about that you want to try out this year. And let's do a little bit of sharing, because we talked about this being a learning community and you all have some great resources and ideas. On the next slide, let's share. And Tricia, if you'll go one more. Thank you. Yeah. What is a specific strategy that you've used? And if you want to share in the chat, or if somebody wants to come off mute and share with us, we would love to hear that specific strategy. So I'll give you one. We used a learner profile, or a learner profile that we created was that Google form that we sent to you last week. And that helped us to kind of get to know a little bit more about your personalities and some of your interests, but also the things that you're proud of. That helped us, and will continue to help the coaches get to know you. Great. Jared says, just studying the previous year yearbook. That's a great, just to get to know their names and their faces. So then that way, when they come into your classroom, you can call them by name. Great idea, Jared. Oh, Amy says creating a Facebook page about themselves. So probably an opening activity and letting them, I guess, give some interests that they have, and a little bit more about themselves. That's a great way to kind of connect to them.
I like to do a PowerPoint at the beginning of the year that shows the kids my family, tells them about myself, and it gives them the opportunity to share their experiences with me and what we have in common.
Love it. That's super. Connecting to them and allowing them to add pictures and everything is great. I see that Stephanie says a scavenger hunt to find someone who. So maybe once they've shared some of those things, then they can actually have to go around and talk to their classmates. We know that that can be such an awkward thing for students, especially in our middle grade years, talking to other people or asking information. So a scavenger hunt, giving them that intentional purpose. And I see Brooke, talks about greeting them at the door and asking them a simple question. That's a great way, what'd you watch last night, or what'd you do yesterday when you went home? A simple question can let you know a lot. Oh, Amanda says instead of taking attendance from the front, she walks around and meets each student individually as they're working on a learner profile and asks each student a question. That's great. Brooke says a Who Am I poem. You can see lots of other great ideas in the chat.
So if you wanted to save these ideas, because I believe that we've shared a lot of really great strategies together, there's those 3 dots that you see in the chat. And if you click on that, it'll say Save Chat, and it will save this information on a file on your computer if you want to save it, because it's just some great ideas if you didn't write them down.
Great. And somebody put in there, and I'm sorry, I can go back and find it, but they said that they have them create a song about themselves. So that's, and then Jared says, after doing an About Me intro, he does a Kahoot quiz with some funny info. So, and lets them kind of share in that way. Or a bio, Wendy says a bio, or an Instagram app. So these are some great ideas. So Tricia, if you go back, do you mind going back one slide? And let's now look at, I want you to take that 3rd column on your piece of paper. And what is a new idea that maybe you want to try this year? Maybe an idea that you just got from someone, or a mashup of an idea that you just heard. Building relationships, just like setting those routines and procedures, we can't say enough about that and how important it is. And you don't just do it on the first day or the first week. You continue to build those relationships throughout the year. And many of the strategies you all have shared would kind of continue to add to that. But really being intentional and thinking about how can I build some relationships early on with my students, and all of my students, not just the few that we kind of quickly gravitate to, but really trying to develop some deep relationships with all of our students is going to help be an important piece of laying that foundation.
So we have one more to go. It's pretty quick, and it's arguably the most important. So bear with me for 1 second. So we have Walt Disney right here. He was a cartoonist, founder of Disney World, the Disneyland. Fun fact, he never actually got to see the opening of Disney World, but he did get to see the opening of Disneyland. Here she is again. We've got Dolly Parton. I think the list could go on, but I've narrowed it down to songwriter, actress, philanthropist, and founder of Dollywood, a struggling amusement park in her own hometown that she took over, and it has been very popular and profitable. And then we have Milton Hershey. I am from Pennsylvania, so I am familiar with Hershey Park. And he has done a lot for his community as well. He actually founded the town of Hershey for his employees so that they would have a place to live, a park to go to. So after they get out of the Hershey plant, he even created what they called back then an school for orphaned boys. So in just looking at these 3 people, in the chat, what do you think, besides owners of amusement parks, what do they have in common? What do you see from here, or your own background knowledge? Just a couple of words. What do they have in common? Out of the box thinkers. They all, not yet, Sarah. Yes, thinking outside the box, perseverance, creativity, fearless, cultivators of joy. I love that, Hannah. Cultivators of joy. Yes, I didn't mention this, but prior to Milton Hershey's church, Hershey's bar, chocolate wasn't accessible to the everyday person. It was only accessible to the wealthy. So he was the first person to produce chocolate, when you talk about joy, so the everyday person could actually, it was affordable. All right, so pause the chat for just 1 second. Let's go back to Walt. He was also fired from, I think, a newspaper for his lack of imagination. Can you imagine? Also, he filed for bankruptcy before he started up Disney World. I think Mickey Mouse, sorry. Dolly is almost flawless, but she did come from humble beginnings. I read an article about her living in a one bedroom home with 12 siblings. They all slept in the same bed. So she came from very meager beginnings. And then Milton Hershey, he had many failed businesses before Hershey's took off. And it actually took him years, almost a decade, to create the right formula for the Hershey's chocolate. And even after he created that and made it public, he continued to refine the formula to what it possibly is today. Now, a few more I want you to share in the chat. What do you think these three people have in common? Some of you already alluded to it early. They had a struggle, but what happened with that struggle, Rachel? They had the grit, they had the perseverance, they were driven, as you were talking about earlier. Famous failures when they all moved forward, though. They all failed multiple times and they overcame that struggle. Kay said to me privately by accident, they were passionate about their dreams. Absolutely. They kept pushing. They did not stop. And they were pretty transparent about their struggles as well. None of them hid the fact that they hit bankruptcy or they grew up poor or that many of their businesses had failed. So let's transition and how we're going to end this session on you as the lead learner. You know, you are the Dolly Parton, you are the Walt Disney, you know, you are the Milton Hershey, you are the ones that are conducting all of this and to bring this fun and engaging experience to your students. So as the lead learner, and we talked about what the lead teacher does earlier, those were the specific roles and responsibilities, but let's really think deeper about what a lead learner does for this school. You're the one that models the growth mindset. So if Zoom fails, if Google is stabbing you in the back and is not working appropriately, if you try a new strategy and right in front of you, I have been there, right in front of you, it is crumbling. You smile and you make it through it. And then you go and you reflect on that bench, you work with your coach and you keep going. You keep moving forward. You embrace that risk-taking mindset that we saw the three lead learners have before. Nancy and I are always taking risks when it comes to especially Zoom and trying different things online. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, we're going to reflect on it afterwards and make those modifications. So taking those appropriate risks is what that lead learner does. Promoting your student self-efficacy. I think Sarah talked a little bit earlier about collective efficacy, but really if I believe that I can do this, even though I'm reading at a 3rd grade level and I'm in the 6th grade, if my teacher is just smiling and saying, we can do this, we can work through it, we're going to try different ways. If my teacher supports that, then I believe that I could do it. And that's one of the most powerful ways to move students forward is building their self-efficacy, building their belief that they can do it. Let's, against all odds. Next, as Nancy talked about earlier, reflection. So we can't just keep getting on all the rides and having all the fun. We actually have to stop and reflect. I'm probably an over-reflector. Like on our break, I was already reflecting on, okay, what can we change about this presentation? What can we do? There wasn't enough this, there wasn't enough that. I'm probably an over-reflector. But really reflecting and not always moving forward without looking back at what happened to yourself and also to student learning. And lastly, you are a lifelong learner, which most of you are. You wouldn't be in education for 21 years if you weren't a lifelong learner. But I think some of you shared prior, you're allowing students to see, okay, here's what I'm reading today. You're broadcasting that, you're sharing that. Oh, I won't be here tomorrow because I'm going to professional development so I can learn some new literacy strategies. So modeling and being very transparent about what you were doing. So, and continuing to be that lifelong learner, Bethany has a message for you.
A little plug for the Summer Institute. Right, guys? So, I mean, this is really lead learning in action. Right, I love this quote, develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never cease to grow. And that's what it means to be a lead learner, seeking those opportunities to learn and grow. And, I know I saw several of your names yesterday in our 4 sessions that we kicked off the Virtual Summer Institute with. And I hope to see many more of you in our upcoming 30-some sessions that are left. So exciting opportunities for everybody to dig in and continue to grow in that way. Also, as a lead learner, just ask that you help us spread the word about these learning opportunities. And just like Patricia was saying, really kind of modeling, being transparent about the value in continuous improvement and continuous learning. And just invite your colleagues to join you. Say, hey, I'm going to this, 1-hour session on XYZ. Come with me and we can talk about it, that kind of thing. And it does take some vulnerability, put yourself out there, especially in front of your colleagues. But again, that's that role of a lead learner, and we hope you will join us for the Virtual Summer Institute.
Yes. And Bethany, just a quick, the coaches are doing great sessions. We also have a special guest, Kristen Zimke, from Chicago. And Kristen, we hope to be able to bring her face-to-face with you all sometime this fall as well. But Kristen will be sharing sessions along with your amazing coaches and other great presenters from around the region.
And you are Friday Institute friends. So.
So I think Sarah actually did a really great job of wrapping this up. It's like, stay committed to the roller coaster. We'll definitely have ups and downs as you have experienced in your career as educators, but stay committed to it, because at the end, it kind of all levels out. Everything really does calm down. But just be ready for those twists and turns. So as we conclude this session, I want you to think about what type of amusement park experience will you design for your students, and looking at the Maslow before the Blooms for the safety, having those shared experiences so students aren't sitting in the same seats the entire time, multiple ways to ask for help, the power of reflection, and then you as the lead learner. Sally says, how can you save the chat? Okay, so we'll move on, and then Sally, I'll message you privately on that one. So today's evaluation, Nancy has placed that in there. It's more of an evaluation and / what questions do you have for us? There might be many, or you might be so new that you don't know exactly what questions that you do have. But please do know that we do look at each and every one of the evaluations, and it does help inform where we go and how we proceed forward in the language that we use to make sure that we are giving a consistent message. So in your chat,
Trisha, if you'll go back, yep, there you go, perfect.
Nancy has placed the evaluation there. For those of you who want to, oh, look at that. They are saving the chat. The chats will be posted on the Virtual Summer Institute website. So it's a hub for everything. I love that. But if you were looking to do it on your own, it's the 3 dots and you click Save Chat, and then you go back to your computer. And mine kind of popped up instantly, but I think going to the Virtual Summer Institute website might be a whole lot easier than trying to find it on your own. So thank you, John, for doing that.
Yes.
And I was going to go with a little living on a prayer or whatever we had going as we conclude. So just know that I think we will see each and every one of you tomorrow for an additional onboarding session with your principals. And then I know I speak on behalf of myself and all of the coaches that are here. We really look forward to virtually seeing you in at least 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 11 of the Virtual Summer Institute sessions that I know the coaches have worked extremely hard to make the sessions relevant and interactive and a little bit challenging your thought as much as possible. So we all hope to see you again tomorrow and throughout June.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. And please fill out that evaluation. We'll stick around if you have questions.
Especially fill it out if you need a certificate of participation, because those will be emailed out tonight. So if you need that, be sure that you do the evaluation form, please. And before you leave, because I about 15, well, I guess about 11:15, I'll close the form. So make sure that you do that, please.
Oh, now, John, this evaluation is from today's. I don't know if we have.
Okay, here's the one for ours.
We did not ask for their names.
Okay.
In this evaluation.
Okay, if you need a certificate, use the one that from me, from John Payne, that says evaluation survey form. If you need a certificate of participation, be sure you complete that one. It says evaluation survey form. Okay.
Sorry about the confusion.
Gotcha.
We'll get together on that for tomorrow to make sure we're clear and straight. Yeah, this one. And Tricia, if you want to play the Spotify playlist, I put it at the on the first slide deck. It's the Rural Life. There's a link to it.